Today I'm sharing 12 patriotic DIYs for the 4th of July. These are some of my favorite projects, along with a few new ones as well. So let's get started. For this project, I'm using this unfinished wood plaque from Dollar Tree. And since it's a pretty good size, it would make a really cute decorative tray. I thought it would be cute to decoupage a patriotic napkin onto it. Dollar Tree did have some, but I wasn't sure if they would be large enough for this tray. Instead, I ended up picking up these larger ones from Michael's. Now these were 50% off, and I thought the little red, white, and blue stars were perfect. I'm just giving the wood a light sanding first to smooth everything out, especially along the sides. I could paint the surface white, but I do want that wood underneath to still show through. I'm going in with Mod Podge, and this one is in the gloss finish, but satin or matte works great too. I'm making sure to apply a generous amount all over the top, and I especially want it to get all the way to the edges, but avoiding the sides. Then I just leave it alone and let the Mod Podge dry completely, and it really doesn't take too long. Once that's dry, I'm just separating the layers and removing the white backing pieces. And I was actually surprised this napkin had 3 layers. To attach the napkin, I'm using the iron-on method, and so I just place the napkin over the dried Mod Podge and I lined it up where I wanted it. Then I added a piece of parchment paper over the top, and this just protects the napkin from the heat so the iron isn't touching it directly. I'm gently pressing over the surface and the heat reactivates the Mod Podge underneath and helps the napkin stick nice and smooth. To remove the overhang, I'm just gently sanding along the edges of the wood and it comes off really easily. And look at that, so pretty already. This is why I tried not to get that Mod Podge on the sides because it just makes this part a lot cleaner. Then I'm going to seal the top with another layer of Mod Podge. Instead of adding handles, I decided to add these little wood pegs to the bottom, and I found these at Hobby Lobby, but I believe Dollar Tree carries something similar too. And honestly, I love it just like this with the natural wood showing, but then I started thinking maybe I should paint the sides red or blue, but I decided to stay true to my style and go with the very bold color of white. Very daring, I know, but definitely customize it to what you like. Once it dried, it was a little too bright for the look I wanted, so I sanded it back to soften it up and give it more of that distressed, weathered look that I love. I also lightly brushed a little of that white paint onto the legs so everything would tie together. And finally, I'm going in with a little antique wax on a damp cloth just to tone down the white even more and bring some of that wood detail back. I was definitely loving this even more than the natural wood. And I'm also adding a little bit of that wax to the legs so everything matches. To attach it, I'm using E6000 because I wanted that extra strong hold. Wood glue would also be a good option, but I definitely wouldn't use hot glue for this. I don't want them popping out later. I let that glue sit for a little bit, and then I add some weight on top to help hold everything in place while it dries. And to finish it off, I spray the whole tray with Minwax Helmsman Spray Sealer for that extra protection and durability. I think this would be so cute on a 4th of July dessert table or even styled on a coffee table or kitchen counter. I love how simple it is, but it still has that sweet patriotic touch. For this DIY, I'll be using this metal wreath frame from Dollar Tree. This one's about 14 inches, so I thought the size was perfect. I also grabbed a couple of Dollar Tree's patriotic ribbons. One was a solid blue and the other was a red, white, and blue plaid. I ended up switching out the plaid for this red and white checkered ribbon I already had. It's also from Dollar Tree, and honestly, I just like the look of it better. I'm cutting the ribbons to about 7 inches, and I'm using a ruler to make sure I cut each one all uniform. Now you can totally go longer if you want it fluffier, but with the amount of ribbon I had, 7 inches was just the length needed to make sure I had enough and didn't run out of ribbon. I think I ended up with around 14 or 15 pieces total. Then I did the same thing with a blue ribbon, measured and cut each strip to the same 7-inch length, and I ended up cutting about 15 strips. Once everything was cut, I started adding some pleats to each ribbon. I'm doing about 3 pleats per strip, starting with one in the center, then one on each side of that. To make a pleat, I just pinch the ribbon together where I want the fold, and then I press it flat with my fingers. It's super quick and it doesn't have to be perfect. Then I just add a little dot of hot glue to hold each pleat in place. I also make sure that each strip still measures at least 6 inches, just so I can still wrap it around the wreath frame without any trouble. Okay, so once I'm done with the blues, I just do the same thing with the red and white. Of course, you can totally switch up the ribbon to fit your style, like burlap, satin, or glitter ribbon. It all adds character. I actually saw something really similar in Pottery Barn that used burlap, which is where I got the inspiration for this project. To glue the ribbon onto the wreath, I flip the frame upside down because I want the seams to be on the back where you can't see them. Then I just attach the ribbon together with a strip of hot glue. I'm making sure the top part of the ribbon is pulled tight and sits right up against the wreath frame. That keeps it nice and secure. Then I let the rest of the ribbon hang loose at the bottom so it naturally flares out and gives the wreath a bit more shape and fullness. I'm alternating the ribbons as I go, one red and white, then one blue, and repeating that all the way around. This keeps the pattern balanced and helps the colors really pop against each other. It actually went pretty fast once I got into the rhythm. Just glue it down, press it in place, and move on to the next one. Once all the ribbons are attached, I go back and add a little hot glue in between just to make sure everything stays in place and doesn't shift around. Now at this point you can leave it as is and just attach a ribbon at the top to hang it, or if you want to add a little something extra, you can tie on one or even all 3 of those metal stars we used in the first DIY, or even place them right on top of the ribbons for a layered look. Either way, stars or no stars, it all turns out super cute and it's such a simple project. I'm going to be using a couple of these wooden crates from Dollar Tree and 2 of these house-shaped wood frame chalkboards from Dollar Tree as well. I'm going to be gluing the crates together, so I apply some wood glue over the longer sides of the crate, and then I bring the 2 crates together side by side. I clamp it to hold it in place while it's drying, and then I move on to the house frame. I'll be painting the chalkboards front and back, but I'm going to keep the wood frame unpainted because I love the natural wood element of that. So I get some painter's tape and I carefully cover up the frame. So I start with the back side of the house. I'm using Waverly chalk paint in the shade Ocean. This is such a beautiful shade of blue and it will dry much darker than it looks right now. I want the paint to be completely opaque, so I do a couple of layers. Then I paint the chalkboard sides, same as the back. I apply a couple layers so that it's completely covered. Next, I paint the crates. Now on the long side of each crate, I only paint the side edge a bit. That side really isn't going to be seen, so I leave most of that side unpainted. After that, I remove the painter's tape around the frame. Wow, the combination of the natural wood and the dark blue paint is absolutely beautiful. I wanted to add a simple decorative detail to the house, so I get a bamboo stick and I measure the width of the houses. And I'm going to cut 6 to that length. You can also use popsicle sticks as well. And then I just glue them down towards the bottom of the house, spacing them out evenly. It's such a simple detail, but so charming. To secure the crate to the wood frame, I apply a line of glue along the bottom section of the frame, going up to the height of the crate. Then I carefully align and glue the crate onto the frame, making sure it's centered and securely attached. I'm going to be using this 3/8 of an inch dowel for the handle. I got this at Walmart and it came in a pack of 10. I mark and measure the distance between the 2 houses on each side of the crates. I also double up the depth of the frame so that the dowel fits snugly between the houses. Next, I apply glue on the bottom frame area of the unglued house, as well as on the ends of the dowels and the inner peak of the frame. So I glue everything together, starting with the dowel, holding it in place, and then I bring the outer frame towards the crate and dowel. I tried using these Dollar Tree clothespins to clamp the dowels so that I could just readjust the frame, but it didn't stay in place, so I just ended up having to hold it in place for a few minutes. But you know what's really awesome about this adorable little house-shaped toolbox? The handle actually functions like a real handle. Before committing to gluing everything down, I wanted to see how it would look if I added a wooden star in the center, or maybe even 3 stars for an extra patriotic touch. and it did look pretty nice. However, in the end, I decided to go for a simpler and cleaner look, that way I could use it for different occasions. I absolutely love how this charming wood house turned out. I'm going to be making several wreaths in this video, and so for this one, I'll be using this 14-inch metal wreath form from Dollar Tree. I also grabbed a couple packs of these wooden clothespins, and there's 60 clothespins in each pack. I'll be painting them to match the season's theme using my red, white, and blue Waverly chalk paints. You can also use spray paint, which is quicker. I chose chalk paint because I already had them on hand and didn't need to buy anything new. So to paint, I'm just spacing them out with this thick skewer. I'm using about 72 clothespins for this wreath, and I'll be dividing them into 3 groups. I'm starting off with crimson. I'm painting 27 clothespins this color. I'm using a small brush to apply the paint, and it goes on beautifully. I only apply about a coat on the clothespins, and it covers nicely. It's such a beautiful, deep, rich red color. Next up is the shade Ocean, and I'm using 21 for this color. It's a beautiful blue, not as dark as a navy shade, which I like, but this will dry a bit darker. You can also use regular acrylic paint. It doesn't have to be chalk paint, or again, if you want to speed things up, you can use spray paint instead, which will also seal the paint nicely. I also make sure to paint over the metal part as best as I can. So once everything is painted and completely dry, it's time to clip them on the metal wreath form. I'm going to show you a couple of ways to do this. For this wreath, I'm clipping the clothespins in groups of 3, alternating between red and white. And I'm attaching them onto the 2 inner metal circles. They clip on perfectly. Each clothespins, they have these 2 round gaps or space in between that fit snugly on the inner circles, so you'll know they're secure when they snap into place. And I do pack them in there so they're all nice and tight per section, closing in the gaps as much as possible. And then I clip on the blue for the remaining quarter. You really can distribute however you want. You can add more or less blues. You can also have red, white, and blue in the groups of 3s. I tried them out in different ways and I thought they all look pretty nice. I'm going to add some wooden stars on the blues, and I thought that would finish it off nicely, and so I just paint them white. I'm using about 5 or so, but you can add more if you like. So once that's completely dry, I place them over the blue clothespins, rearranging them until I like the way it looks. And then I hot glue them in place. To hang, you can easily place it on a hook or attach some ribbon on top. If you want to add more embellishments, you can add some flowers or a bow, but I do like it the way it is. Now I wanted to quickly show you another way I thought looked just as beautiful as the first wreath. I really couldn't decide between the 2. I'm still clipping the red and the white in groups of 3, but this time, instead of them clipped on evenly side by side, I'm clipping one on the 2 inner circles and the next on the 2 middle. And I'm just repeating that pattern with red and white. Although I must admit I did miss a couple where I clipped 2 side by side. I did that a couple of times and I didn't realize it until I was all done, but I ended up leaving it. Now you will need to add a few more clothespins for each color because doing it this way kind of pushes them even closer together. I think I added about 6 more whites and maybe a couple more blues, so just have some extra ready to go. And this one is all done. Now aside from displaying this as a wreath, it also makes a beautiful centerpiece for a table. So here's another option. Just lay it flat on a table. I placed a wood round stand in the center, and then I added some baby's breath all around. And then I just added some candles on top of the wood round. I'm using a wood board from a Dollar Tree hanging shelf kit. These are super versatile and they work great as a base. I'm also using some of these giant craft sticks and they're a little over 10 inches long. I get these at Walmart and I'll be using about 11 of them for this project. First, I'm laying the craft sticks out side by side so they're all lined up. I want them to fit neatly on top of the wood board, so I place a board right on top and I mark where I need to trim. Once all the sticks are marked, I stack them together and tape them up so they stay aligned, and then I use my miter box and saw to trim them all in one go. It's a super quick way to get clean, even cuts. On a couple of the sticks, I also had to trim just a little off the sides to get a cleaner fit on the board. Once everything was nicely cut, I started laying the trim craft sticks back over the board to make sure they were lined up side by side. Then I glued them down using hot glue. Some of the sticks were a little curved or warped, so using hot glue helped them lay flat. I just made sure to hold them down for a few seconds before moving on to the next one. And that just made it look very uniform and polished. I'm going to stain the wood using this water-based stain from Varathane in the shade Dark Walnut. It's a stain and poly combo, so it gives the wood a really nice finish. So I'm applying it all over with a foam brush, also making sure to get it in between the craft sticks. I did about 2 coats, and once everything is dried, it's time to move on to the next part. I grabbed several of these metal star ornaments from Dollar Tree. I grabbed a red, white, and blue one, and each comes with 2. I'll be using one of each color, and the others I'll be saving for another project. Now I'm clipping off that little circle hook at the top of each star. We won't be needing that part, as well as the beads. I'll be gluing the metal stars onto the board, but instead of laying them flat, I wanted to give them a bit of a lift. So I'm hot gluing a small wooden bead underneath each star to raise it up just slightly. Once the bead is in place, I hot glue them right on the board. You can line the stars up vertically or horizontally. It's totally up to you and what you like best. To finish it off, you can add a hanger on the back or just prop it up. And that's it. It's super simple and adds such a patriotic touch wherever you put it. For this one, I'm using the stained beaded wreath from Dollar Tree. If you don't see this one, the unfinished wood ones work just as well. I also found these blue and white bandanas at Dollar Tree. I'm going to turn the white one into a bow, so I'm laying it out in a diamond shape first. I want those side points to be the longest horizontally, and I'm folding the top and bottom points towards the center, and then folding it in one more time. Then I'm bringing the sides in to shape it into a bow. And to add a little pop of red, I'm using this red velvet ribbon on the center. I'm going to tie it nice and flat, and so I'm flipping it to the back and then tying it into a knot. After that, I just fluff the sides. For the navy bandana, I'm just pinching it right in the center and letting the fabric fall naturally. Then I place it on the left side of the wreath and layered the white bow right on top. I used a red ribbon to tie around the tip of the navy bandana just to hold everything in place. Then I wanted to add some greenery, but I was trying to figure out the best way to attach it. But I ended up untying the ribbon and redoing this part because I thought it was actually easier and cleaner to just tie it all together instead of gluing it separately. Then I just grouped it all and tied everything on the back with that red ribbon. Once it was tied, I just adjusted the front until everything sat nicely. Then for the other side of the wreath, I'll be adding a few small wooden stars. I gave them a quick dry brush with white paint, and then I placed them on the wreath, leaving a little space on the top for the hanger. And once I liked the spacing, I hot glued them in place. And this one is all done. Using 2 of the wooden trays, and I'm going to be using the bottoms or backs of these for this project. I'm going to paint one of them in the shade Ocean from Waverly. It's good to mix these chalk paints up before applying, especially the darker shades. Otherwise, you kind of get different shades if it's not properly mixed. So I apply the paint all over the outer sides as well as the bottom or the back of the tray. Now I'm not going to paint the inside surface of the tray. You certainly can if you wish. It's really not going to be seen, so I thought I would just save some paint and leave that part as is. For the other tray, I'm going to paint it white. I'm using Folk Arts chalk paint, and just like the previous tray, I paint the bottom and outer sides, leaving the inside as is. A while back, Essential Stencils sent me a few stencil packs to try out, and one of them happened to be an American theme pack, so I thought it would be the perfect opportunity to give them a go and see how they turned out. Just to clarify, this video isn't sponsored by them, but I genuinely wanted to try out their stencils and share my experience with you. For our project, I'm going to use the Star Stencil and the July 4th one since I wanted one that would go vertically. Of course, feel free to use any stencil or decal that matches your style. The great thing about these trays is that they are perfect for creating stunning tabletop decor signs. Okay, so let's get started with the stenciling process. I place a stencil on top of the tray, making sure it's centered, and to prevent any accidental moving, I secure it in place with some painter's tape. I dip the brush into the paint, and I'm using white chalk paint, and then I gently dab off the excess onto a paper towel. With the brush loaded with paint, I begin brushing over the stencil using circular motions. Now I'm being extra cautious around the edges of the stars because the tray is smaller than the stencil and I don't want any paint to accidentally end up on the sides of the tray. So I just take my time being extra careful along those areas. Wow, it's looking amazing so far. So I connect the stars and then I continue applying the color, again being extra careful on the edges where there's no wood underneath. Now honestly, I probably should have just taped those sides off. I didn't think about it until now, so next time for sure. Wow, I couldn't be happier with how this one turned out. For the next one, I place the stencil right in the center and then I place some painter's tape on the top and bottom to hold it in place. I'm using chalk paint from Waverly in the shade Crimson. So I dip the brush onto the paint and I make sure to dab out the excess and then I brush that over the stencil in circular motions. And wow, this one came out just as stunning. I really love how both of these turned out. Is going to be a quick and simple one. I'm repurposing a grapevine wreath I used in a previous project a few videos back. I had it all dressed up with some pretty flowers and a welcome sign right in the center. So I carefully removed the flowers but kept the wooden sign in place. So now I have a blank canvas to work with. I'll be using a couple of these greenery bouquets from Dollar Tree. And I'm just tucking them into the wreath towards the bottom and placing two of them opposite each other, making sure to leave a little space in the center. I'm not really using hot glue to hold the greenery in place, I'm just weaving the stems through the grapevine wreath. But if you feel like things need a little extra hold or shaping, you can always use hot glue or some floral wire to help. For the center, I'm adding this large burlap bow with red, white, and blue stars. I found it at Dollar Tree too, and I'm just using some hot glue to attach it right in the middle. To finish it off, I decided to add a few small wooden stars around the empty part of the wreath. I'm painting them with white chalk paint, but to get that weathered rustic look, I'm just dry brushing the paint on lightly, just enough to let some of that natural wood peek through. That way I don't even need to sand it afterwards. Then I staggered them around the top part of the wreath and glue them down. You can attach a ribbon on the top to hang it or just hook it onto a wreath holder. And that's it. This quick and simple wreath is done. I saw these adorable wooden stars with a little beaded tassel at Dollar Tree, and I thought they'd be perfect for my next DIY. I just love the look of them, and I think they'll make such a cute little accent piece for your decor. Now, I really do like the tassel it comes with, but it looked a little too small and sparse for what I had in mind, so I decided to make my own using some jute cord I had on hand, just to give it a fuller, more finished look. So first, I'm removing the string from the back. It's definitely stapled on there pretty well, so what helped was cutting the string off first and then using some pliers to roll out whatever was left behind. After that, I grabbed my heavy-duty staple remover to get the staples out completely. Of course, you could skip this part and leave the staple as is, but I wanted the back to be nice and smooth. Now, I had a couple of options for what to use to make my tassel, but since the star is a good size, I ended up going with a thicker jute cord. To make this tassel, I'm just wrapping the jute around this small wooden board I had on hand. It's about 6 inches wide. I wrapped it around about 10 times, but that part really depends on how full you want your tassel to look. Once I had enough loops, I snipped the end, carefully slid the whole thing off, and tied a little knot, which will be the top of the tassel. Then I cut through the loops and the bottom to open it up and give it that classic tassel shape. To make the ends of the tassel, I take some thinner jute string and wrap it about an inch down from the top. I just add a little hot glue to hold the end in place, and then I wrap it around until it's about half an inch thick. To finish it off, you can add a little glue on the end to help hold it in place, but personally, I like to thread the end through the center using a yarn needle for a cleaner finish. Then I just give the ends of the tassel a little trim to even everything out. To add a little pop of gold, I'm applying some Rub and Buff to the top of the star. I don't want to cover the whole thing, I still want that base color to show through, so I'm using a tiny bit on a foam brush that I trimmed down. Then I just slightly rub it over the raised edges of the star for that pretty brushed gold look. I also added a little to the sides too, just to tie it all together and give it a more finished look. After that, I went back and buffed it with a clean cloth, which really brings out the shine and gives it that pretty metallic finish. I'm keeping that natural wood and red combo, but I wanted to add a few more beads to the tassel, especially some extra red ones. So I used a few beads I already had on hand. I'm painting several of them using this crimson chalk paint. Instead of mixing them with the red beads it came with, I decided to paint a fresh set so everything looks nice and uniform. Next, I'm stringing the beads through the tassel's jute string, just alternating the red and natural wood. After that, I'm gluing the tassel and the beads to the bottom of the star, and I'm just hot gluing the end of the cord on the back of the star. Then I string 5 beads to make the top part, again alternating the colors and hot gluing that in place too. I also added a simple loop on the top to finish it off, and that's it. This quick little DIY is done, and it makes such a cute accent piece for your shelves or trays or even hanging on a hook. And with a neutral wood and red combo, you could definitely bring it out later in the end of the year as well. Dollar Tree has these really nice patriotic themed scarves. They're just so pretty, and I'll be using the star pattern one for this project. I thought this would just be so gorgeous on a wreath, and so I'll be using this grapevine wreath. I've used this in multiple projects. This is an 18-inch from Michaels. I believe it was under $5 with a 20% off coupon, but you can get it anywhere. So the first thing I'm going to do is fold the scarf right in half. And then I'm going to just wrap it around the wreath, making sure that middle section is wrapped on one end of the wreath, so it's the right side on this one, and the two ends are even on the other side or the left side. And then I'm just rearranging it, opening up the scarf on the right side. But you want to be careful though, because it can snag on the wreath. And on the other side, I tie a knot. I'm just kind of looping the ends around the wreath before making a knot. And then you can just double knot it so that it's secure. To embellish, I'm just going to add some white flowers and eucalyptus stems. I'm keeping this very simple and elegant. So I'm just going to take the stems and place them on either side of the knot, going on opposite directions. I'm sliding them right through the wreath, but you can also secure them with some hot glue if you like. I do make sure to leave some space in between. And then I'm just going to glue a couple white flowers right in between. Now after I do that, I fill in any areas where it's needed. I am keeping this very simple, but you can definitely fill it up with more flowers and greenery. And the simple wreath is done. For this DIY, I'm making a sign, and I'm using another one of Dollar Tree's hanging shelves. It comes with a metal ring and a piece of cord for hanging, but I won't be using those for this project. I'll also be using these 5-gallon paint stir sticks. I picked up a pack of 3 from my local hardware store, Lowe's, and this will make the border of the frame. So to make the frame, I just lay the stir sticks directly on top of the board to figure out the sizing. I mark where each one needs to be trimmed so they'll fit around the edges like a picture frame. Once I've got my marks, I trim them down. The sticks had those white ruler marks on one side, but since that side is going to be facing the back, I didn't stress about it too much, but I did give them a quick sanding just to lighten them up a bit. Now before I start staining, I'm just taking note of the areas where I'll be applying glue later. I really want to avoid getting stain there so that the glue sticks better. Now I'm staining the frame using a water-based stain from Behr in the shade Special Walnut. This is just one that I had on hand and I love using it. I'm applying it with a cloth that's just a little damp, not soaking wet because I wanted the stain to go on light at first. It was a little too light for what I wanted, so I ended up going over it with another stain, Varathane Stain Plus Poly in dark walnut, and that gave it a deeper, richer color with a really nice finish, and I ended up liking that look way better. For the wood board, I'm giving it a coat of white paint just to create a clean background to start with. I'm using white acrylic paint for this part. This one's from Apple Barrel and I'm just dabbing it on with a round sponge brush. I'm getting the paint close to the edges, but I do leave a little bit unpainted on the ends since that's where I'll be gluing later. Now I decided to use my Cricut to cut out the phrase, "God shed his grace on thee," to make a stencil. And I just typed it out on Cricut canvas. I'm using vinyl from Dollar Tree for this part. It's super affordable, which is nice. So I place that right in the center of the wood board, and I'll be using black chalk paint over the stencil because it pops so well against a white background. It gives it a beautiful, clean contrast. After that, I just peel off the vinyl and weed out any little pieces inside the letters. I love the sticky back because it really helps prevent any paint bleeding underneath. Finally, I'm attaching the frame. I run a thin line of glue along each edge of the board, just right where the paint stir sticks will sit. I try not to use too much, just enough to hold it in place without oozing out on the sides. I'm also applying some glue along the edge of the shorter wood pieces. Then I attach the paint sticks along the edge of the board, starting with the 2 horizontal pieces and then the 2 shorter ones. And I wedge those right in between. Now you can attach a hanger on the back if you want to hang like a sawtooth hanger, or glue some wood pieces on the bottom back to help hold it upright. Another option, you can attach the metal star sign to the top or bottom to make an even larger sign. Just make sure to adjust the direction of the top of the star. And we are all done. I'll be using several bouquets of these red, white, and blue flowers from Dollar Tree. This green foam ring from Dollar Tree as well. So the first thing I'm going to do is snip the flowers off the stems, and I'm going to leave about 1 inch for the wire stems below. From there, it's really easy. I'm starting with the carnations, and I just start poking the flowers right through the foam, pushing them as far in as it can go. You can also add some hot glue to secure the flowers even more. I'll keep attaching the flowers, mixing up the colors until the entire surface of the foam is covered. And there's really no exact pattern to this. You really can't mess this up. It's super easy. You just want to randomly place the flowers on top and on the sides. And then after that, I'm going to fill in the sparse areas with the roses. I think the flower variations really give it some nice dimension. Now, I packed the flowers in there. I think I was determined to use up what I had, and I do like the way it looks, but I probably could have left a full bouquet of flowers out and it still would have looked really pretty. I wanted to add something in the center of the wreath, and so I'm going to be painting this piece of wood. It's just a paint stir stick. You can use any small scrap wood, and I'm mixing some neutral colors together, adding some water to the mixture and applying it like a stain, wiping it on and then wiping it down. I'm going to be stenciling the word America on the wood with black chalk paint. So I'm just using a little foam brush to apply the paint, carefully dabbing it on, also making sure to dab out any excess paint on the brush before applying it over the stencil. Now it's up to you. You can attach the little wood sign or leave it off. I think it looks great either way. Now, just like the prior wreath, this also makes a beautiful centerpiece. I'm placing the wreath over the wooden round stand but you really don't have to place anything underneath. I also line it with baby's breath, and then I just added candles right on top. Hey, I hope you enjoyed all these patriotic themed DIYs. If you like it, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. Until next time, bye!